Today we get to do some fun stuff regarding our freshly twin turboed VG30 DE. So we just began this short little series of how to turbo your NA VG30 DE 2TT. And last episode we showed you guys how to mount the turbos, pretty much everything turbo related. We covered about everything related in that video, from intercooler piping, boost controller, exhaust, you know, all that. We never got to the oil pan. So this video will actually be installing our twin turbo oil pan that we have back here. We'll be resealing our valve covers, doing all new gaskets. We're also going to retime it, change our cam seals, new water pump, just give this thing a full refresh. Luckily, with the turbos mounted, you're still able to do all of this. We got us an OEM 120K kit. One thing you need: one tube of ultra gray RTV. I'll ultra gray every single thing on this motor. The only exception, oil pan, I use Nissan liquid gasket. It's pretty much the right stuff. It just cures really fast and return to service very fast. Just use the right silicone for the right application. Then everything will be fine. If you guys have been missing out in the channel in the past, we have this vert that we just 5-speed swapped, and we redid the whole underbody. That car is literally 95% done. We just got a couple little quirks to work out. Then we get to trade it to a friend to repair our slick top 92 out here. And if you guys have missed also, we did two-tone red and black interior swap this Z. This is my baby, and this is my highlight of this year. This car is going to have the biggest transformation, and I'm here for it. I'm ready, and I hope you guys are too. We got this twin turbo swap. We actually need to pull the motor out of this car, drop it in here, and then this is a whole nother animal. As always, shameless plug. If you guys need any Z32 parts, I'm parting this chassis, parting that chassis, and I've got just a lot of other parts in chassis. Feel free to hit me up on Instagram at the link below. It'll also be in the description, or Facebook. Come shop, I got the Z32 parts. Now that the shameless plug's over, let's get to work. So we actually are gonna go, not only do we have everything in this box, we actually have our new part bin back here, which I have an absurd amount of new stuff in. And we're actually gonna pull everything out that we need so we can accumulate a full swap, spark plug, just everything that we'll need, so we can have all the parts laid down and we can visually watch it as everything gets changed. We will be back momentarily. So here's literally probably everything that we're gonna need to refresh this motor. I actually just placed an order for $100 for 4 things that I forgot. Now let's get all this taken, cleaned up off the motor, and let's get to work over here on these valve covers and get to breaking them down and cleaned. See if it's possible to get this knock sensor loose without actually putting my fingers back there, because I'm not wanting to touch no critter. Also really helps if your wrench doesn't jam on you. Cruddy old thing's out. I wonder if it's still any good. We're actually trying to get this whole build and car done in time for next week, which is actually a week from today, because I seen that Prism Mike is actually throwing a project car meet, and I figured, what better thing to do than to go to this meet instead of trying to go to the Z meet on Saturday up there, because I've still never been to a meet and I'm pretty anxious to do so. I'm also pretty nervous at the same time. That's kind of what we're hoping to get this all done for. Fortunately, we had a casualty over here. This bolt broke. Good compression, sight unseen, brand new oil. Survey says looks good. Inside of the valve cover is nice and clean too. They did use a crap ton of silicone. A whole wide spaghetti noodle. This is like a fettuccine noodle. What is behind door number 2? There's marks on the cam, but you cannot feel them at all. It's a good thing we may actually be swapping these cams. Not nearly as much RTV over here, but there is still an absolute crap ton. If you ever have problems pulling these off, stick a screwdriver in it, get a little bit of extra leverage, pop it loose. Man, this thing's awfully corroded. Gee whiz. Not entirely sure Why that wouldn't let go. Inside of the timing covers weren't greasy. Everything looks in good shape. Now let's see if we can get the crank pulley off. That's the big one. This is your best friend. Unless you're in the current situation I'm in, and both of your thread holes are stripped out. So I'm not really sure what to do here. I may try to use a 3-jaw puller, but I don't know. We may try to hammer and pry it off first. It looks like it's coming off. I still just want to crank it off nice and slow so we make sure we don't break it. Because if we break it too much, there's no way we're going to be able to get it off. Oh, there we go. Nice. You know what else super sick to see? No damaged Woodruff key. That's a big plus in my book. You know, I wonder how much coolant's in this thing. Well, there's some. That's another piece to the scrap pile. Just a little tip, I recommend to take your gears off or crank them loose, especially if you have an impact while your belt's still hooked up, so it keeps tension on the gear. These are only like 13 foot-pounds, so they're barely on there. We'll go ahead and pull this tensioner off. Cam's just snapped. Not literally, but the cam gears. Just the tension. I guess we can just yank this thing off. I'm sick of it being in the way. I don't even need to mess with that tensioner. Check out what I found on the belt. Ooh, that's a ticking time bomb there. Now let's pull this gear off. These 14 mil for both of our idlers. Let's finagle this thing off, and also these 4 10 mils on the back per side to pull these rear timing covers. These actually have to go in the garbage because they're for a J30. Got it all stripped down. I think now it's really just a good time to clean it up with some brake cleaner. I'll rinse everything off. Now we're going to clean up all our old RTV, prep our surfaces so that we can really start cleaning everything. This is one of the most time-consuming parts. I hate doing this. Cleaning up old RTV off valve covers, mating surfaces, especially oil pans, but we're not even there yet. Instantly transforms it. It's amazing what a little bit of elbow grease can do. See, this is where I need to learn to draw the line. No one is ever going to see any of this, so I really just need to probably put the brush down while I'm at it. So we've been a little busy just kind of cleaning up all of the surfaces here. This is really time consuming. I hate it. There's 4 surfaces. 2 of them are really easy, but 2 of them are really not fun. We haven't went back and cleaned it with brake cleaner and stuff to get the surface really clean because we're not ready to do that yet. I think right now, before we do that, we're actually going to flip the motor over and we're going to start working on the oil pan so we can check that off the list, since that's really one of the bigger things that we have to do here. And since I'm going to eat dinner tonight, I may not set these yet because honestly, I still have not cleaned the valve covers. It's going to take a little bit of time. I want to clean the outside, and you got to clean up all that RTV again. Let's move a couple things around and let's flip this over. Oh no, I think I may have tightened it too much one way, because now it's like really tough. I want to try to get all this oil that I can, because if not, it's just going to drip out the head and get all over the floor. Whatever, let's eat it. Here comes the exciting part. Yeah, they used a ridiculous amount of RTV here too. Good thing about these tips is they don't point downwards, so you don't got to worry about marring the surface. Ta-da! What do we got here? Other than a really nice NA oil pan that we just took off. Honestly, everything in here looks really nice and clean. No buildup, no sludge. Same as the top end. Really clean motor. Let's proceed with the activities. Yeah, it also appears this dipstick has the end broken off, so we're just going to pitch that now. Now let's clean all of our surfaces. We actually have to pull this motor out and we need the oil pan off of it. This one down here was off a Rodnock motor and it's completely garbage. As I was going to clean this up, check out what I just found. We know they had an obsession with RTV. Well, there's like 6 RTV worms in there. So we got to get that out indefinitely. That wasn't the only thing in that oil pickup. This is actually the dipstick tip. That thing definitely took a hit from the crank. New pan acquired. So I'm actually kind of baffled of how little oil is actually in the pan when it's full of oil. I always thought it was a lot more than that, but it's literally just right to the baffle right there. It's about even all the way across. We just drained out all this brand new oil. I don't know. I may try to find a way to reuse it or recycle it. It's nonsense to just throw 25 bucks out like that. Actually, this is the twin turbo stuff. This is like $50 oil. Gee whiz. Yeah, we're gonna see what we can do about that. This is fresh Nissan gasket. It's one thing tearing off 30-year-old or even 10-year-old RTV because you know it wants to cut. This stuff is so rubbery. It's just a slap in the face to my razor blades. Like, they will not cut through it and it's driving me insane. So we're gonna go inside, call it a night. We're going to come back, attack this first thing in the morning, because I've said in plenty of other videos, this is my least favorite part of doing any work on a Z. Cleaning up the RTV for the valve covers and the oil pan. I'll see you guys in the morning. Good morning, you guys. It's the next day. So we just took the rest of the morning to get this all cleaned up. We got the mating surface clean on both sides. We just need to go back with brake cleaner and a fresh rag. We got both of our oil seals that came off of this pan on a fresh swap bag so we don't have to use our new $20 seals. Love saving money anywhere that we can. Not only this, I think it's time for us to seal this thing. Everything's both clean. We actually took the time, we dumped everything out of the pan, we propped it up, brake cleaned it, wiped it out, microfiber towel, with new microfiber towel, with new microfiber towel. When we ended up pouring it out, it looked like we had metal shavings, which is kind of alarming. I was under the impression that motor was good, but then again, it did kind of backfire and explode and quit working, so who knows. Let's get this pan mounted up. Once we get this pan mounted up and flip this motor back over, we can officially get to finishing this thing up, which I'm so ready for. Everything's tore down, now we just need to put it back together. We also got this all moved back, the NA pan back on, and we've got our cams all loosened up. So we can swap to older style cams and cam gears for my lack of equipment. I just had to get rid of a set, kind of got backed into the corner on it, and I need a set back. I also found this cable in that block, so I actually don't need to order one. Super happy. Let's clean this thing up so we can apply some RTV, or silicone I should say. So make sure you have a nice dry surface to make to. Cut to size. Perfect. I've previously always been a smash kind of guy, lay a bead, squish it. Now I'm kind of getting on the side of I want to start coating it and smudging it with my finger because I've realized I am kind of using too much. So to control that, we're going to knock it all down with our finger. Let's just hit it all fast, and then we'll reapply as needed. That should do it. So I always put a little bit extra here inside your lip so you can actually grab your oil seals and so they'll stay in place. Don't RTV all the way down in there. There's no need for that. Also, throw a dab of RTV down here in the corners so that way it'll grab and seal in between here. Sorry, I know it's a little dark. I'm blocking all the light. It's also a really windy day today. Just enough to kind of contact all the area that the seal will. Take your seals. There will be a little key on it. Be kind of hard to miss. Put it down and just kind of stick it into place. Same thing goes for back here. Also make sure your hands are clean too. You don't want to have oily hands doing this. Now let's go grab the oil pan. Pull your dipstick right now. Do not put this oil pan on if your dipstick is still in. If your dipstick is poking out here, or like me over here, you put the pan on, it's not gonna go in the right position. You're gonna be locked outside of this. Don't do this. You will not be able to pull your dipstick out and you will be screwed. Please, just pull the dipstick. Just pull that dipstick. I'm installing a pan that's, you know, been full and I'm putting it on upside down. I always like to tip it all different kinds of ways to try to mimic and get any residual oil or wetness out. So when you set it down, it doesn't leak down and get all in your fresh new silicone. When you drop it on, try to drop it on as straight as possible. First obstacle will be the oil pickup. As long as you can lay it on flat and straight, press on it to kind of get it to suction on before you bolt it all down. And take your hardware and just thread it all in, snug it down hand tight, do finger tight for what, 5-10 minutes? But even that, you don't really even need to. You can just torque this thing down right away. So I usually like to tighten them down just one click with this, and then I go back with the actual ratchet. I really do not remember the torque specs of these. It's like definitely small, probably less than like 5 foot-pounds if I had to guess. So here I just like to kind of tighten all these up every other one when I actually snug them down. You definitely know when it's tight. You can't go much tighter than tight on these little dinky bolts. All done with the oil pan. That's what I like to hear. Now while we sit here and wait a minute for this to all, you know, seal and kind of set up, we're actually going to install our oil drain gaskets and our oil drains themselves. Always get your bolts threaded on your drain before you actually tighten your coupler up here so you can actually have room to move it around. These are likely 12 foot-pounds as well, considering the size of the bolt. Feel free to consult your factory service manual for a more accurate torque scope. Now we got one more thing we can do while we're here. How about we throw on this nice, fresh new motor mount. This will definitely help bring the aesthetic. Nice new motor mount mounted. Say that 10 times fast. Now for our last oil drain. Now we're actually going to lube up our new oil filter. Make sure it's all clean and installed. One more thing we're wanting to address here, and that is our boost controller. So we actually want to be able to hook up to this waste gauge while we have access to it, and also tee into this. So we're going to tee from this wastegate to the other wastegate, this vacuum source to the other vacuum source on the opposing side, right here. So here's actually an old setup. We got our 3-way zip tied to prevent vacuum leaks. We also have 2 different sizes of hose so we know what's what. This larger hose is what goes to the wastegate. The smaller hose is the one that goes on the inlet of the turbo. And then these other 2 from where you tee in will actually go to your boost controller. So if we take them out of the way, you can see these hoses are about the exact same length on opposing sides. You want your hose to be the exact length so your boost controller reads them both correctly. Let's take our first one. Let's hook it up to this vacuum port. We sling that T around and we plug this one into the other vacuum port. One line is officially ran for our boost controller. Now we'll take our larger, I think 4mm, and we're gonna go on our wastegate solenoid. Once you have that one hooked up, same thing, hook this up to the other side. Now your boost controller plumbing is officially ran and you don't have to worry about it once the engine is in the car. That is annoying. Don't forget to zip tie those connections. Think yourself later. I think it's time to flip this thing back over. I'm gonna try at least. Oh, that's not bad at all. You guys hear that? That's the sign of failure. All for my own pure negligence, that's it. What I think we just did is we screwed up because if you remember, we found that little piece of the oil dipstick. Well, we didn't find the other piece. And I think when we flipped the motor over, it went in the motor. We didn't flip it back to drop it out. Now you can hear it hit the oil pan. I don't know, I'm just not feeling too good about this. I feel like it's better off take the pan off while we're here, take this L, and reseal the pan again. You win some, you lose some, guys. You know, no matter how many times I've done this, I still make mistakes, so don't be so hard on yourself if you do too. Kind of frustrated, just put everything else together, you know, to not even be able to go together. We'll be back. Now, engine is flipped back over, oil pan is done, it's resealed, and it's not coming back off. I promise. I'm so happy to be at this point now. Officially, everything is up from here. When flipping the pan, this is actually why we had to take the pan back off. It appears the previous owner has ran through 3 whole dipsticks, at least, trying to figure this out. So where this dipstick goes down here in the block is not shielded. So when this thing just pokes down in, it's going in the pan instead of in the pan. So it's sitting like this instead of straight down. And it's actually getting hit by the rotating assembly. And it's knocking the dipsticks clean off. They tried this 3 times before just forgetting it. So I think what we're gonna do, since we don't know the full way of how to mess with this, I know I can twist it and get it out, but I don't know what to use to plug it. And as far as the other side goes, it actually looks like you have to drill it out back here. So I don't want to drill into a freshly clean and washed, you know, block and oil pan. So we're just gonna run this for now. We're gonna keep like a non-metal dipstick so we can plug the top, but also have a dipstick so we can check the oil as we need. It's not ideal, but this is what I get for tackling this J30 for the first time. Wow, I'm winging it out today. These new motor mounts are looking mighty crisp. Well, today we get to wrap up the rest of this. We get to put everything back together. We get to reseal and just bring this engine back to its former glory. Oil pan sucks, but the rest of it is totally gratifying. Let's get to it. Now we get to remove some cams. We'll show you the factory service manual before we reinstall the new cams, but right now, let's just pull these ones out. So when you install, you start in the middle and work your way outwards, jumping back and forth. But when you're taking them out, you start on the outside, loosen them up, and work your way in. So I'm actually going to remove this the same way that I would install it. I'm just going to do 1/8 of a turn to crack it loose. You also want to make sure that your cams are resting and that they're not currently in tension. So I do 1/8 of a turn just so we can loosen it, because you want to loosen it as evenly as possible so you can distribute the pressure as evenly as possible to prevent damaging the cam. I know everyone's seen the videos, like Whistling Diesel's video, which, you know, he actually lives an hour and a half from me. These are like really fragile, they're hardened, so they break easily. Now I'm going to do a 1/4 turn, since I've already done all of them. Loosen a little bit. And then I'll go back and do a 1/2 turn. So now as I take each of these off, now that I loosen them up, don't do that. We're just going to transfer them over. These front caps here actually have a little bit of RTV. And not only that, but there's actually the oil seal that'll kind of keep it in place. Just realized I wasn't recording. No sooner than I popped the seal out of this thing, it just came off. Yeah, there's a little bit of RTV. You just want to dab it right here on the corners. You can see there's like a little oil mark. I'm going to install the cam with this key right here, facing upwards. We're actually just going to grab a little bit more oil. Just want to make sure your surfaces are lubed up. We can go ahead and install it now. We got everything all nice and clean. Install our cam caps. I actually need to clean this one up before we go any farther. Need to clean our mating surfaces for the RTV. So we cleaned up both surfaces, and we're actually just putting it right here on this part, because oil actually has a passageway through here for your oil driven VTCs. So just want to take that, smear it on there, because you don't want it to squish out for sure. You just want it to make a nice contact sealing surface. Just reapplied some oil to the cam, ensure it was wet. Now we're going to finger tighten these down and kind of snug up the bolts before we start to torque them down. Torque specs for the cam caps are actually 6.7 to 8.7 foot-pounds. That is the sequence. Start in the middle, work your way outwards. Let's get the rest of these cams in, and then we'll be back to kind of start with the timing, I guess. Only kind of fun thing you guys get to miss is me pulling out seals. Oh yeah, satisfying right there. So since like the 6.7 to 8.4 whatever foot-pounds was pretty close to the low end of my torque spec here on this wrench, I actually did the conversion and I got my 1/4 inch drive to inch pounds, I'm running about 90 inch-pounds right now instead of the foot-pound recommendation, purely for the feel. Because I knew when I started torquing one down, it felt like it was just not consistent. So let's just go back, check that torque one more time. We will be back after we finish the other side. Cams installed. Now it's time to put our cam seals in. We just plopped all the old ones out, so we're going to lube these up with some oil. One way to seat it is to use like an extension, or you can actually use a screwdriver in the back side of the old seal, and you can tap the new one into place. You really want to get the seal started first, or else you're just going to kind of fight yourself by poking it in and popping the opposing side out. I definitely cover this a little more in detail in our timing kit video. Not too worried about showing you guys all of it here. And you just tap it in until it's flush with the surface here. Alright, let's go finish all these and actually put our timing cover plates on so we can get to the point that we're actually putting gears and valve covers and dressing this all back up. Covers on, rear timing bolts are on. Now let's grab our gears. Let's lubricate our exhaust cams with a little bit of oil so they don't seize and rust on. Intakes are always lubricated, so you don't have to worry about that. Coat her up with some oil. Now let's install that gear. And for the final gear, instead of using Ultra Gray this time, I actually went with the Nissan liquid gasket. I feel like you can use it for everything on here, especially if you do it right. We're just going to snug it down with our fingers, and we'll come back in 10 minutes and torque that down. You want to do this before you put everything together, or your socket will not fit through there. Check out what I tried earlier, and it's actually a huge win. Crank pulley slide, so it comes off enough that I can get my slide hammer on it and we can pull it off the rest of the way. Another dub for J30 Motors. Sorry about all the mowers outside. One of us decides to mow and then the whole neighborhood starts to mow. You know how it goes. Alright, everything on. Not really. Still got like tensioner and a couple things. I usually don't put the tensioner on until we're setting the belt. If you've been with our channel for a while, you guys have seen me do this 100 times. Video at this point is already crazy long, so we're going to go ahead and give this thing the whole 1-2 treatment. We're going to get it all sealed up. New valve cover gaskets, half moons, VTCs resealed. And we're going to get it all timed up, water pump on, and get it to where we're ready to put intake and extra accessories on. So here's all of our leftover parts, or at least what we still have to install. So here's a little before and after. Got everything all mounted up, and this is all the parts we have left. O2 sensor, rear main seal, pilot bushing. Just kidding, not everything. We still have our timing covers and our front coolant pipes that we have to sort. We got that coolant temp sensor coming in, and we've got our thermostat right here ready to go. Now, we've actually had a couple things hindering us from finishing all the way, and that should be completely resolved by our parts coming in today. I think we started an order Friday. Everything should be here, like our NOx sensor and all that. But we did get our heater core pipes hooked up, redid our coolant lines. Valve covers are fully resealed. Everything has new gaskets, new O-rings, silicone PCVs, and we found out how to route this dipstick. So I'm happy with that. Honorable mention, this is probably what your NOx sensor looks like from its old style, cruddy, bad harness. This style of connector, as you can see, the seal is completely broke. So it is literally doing nothing at sealing out the moisture. And you can see it's completely corroded with that green mint of death. Trash. I was going to show you guys how to change your pilot bushing from your auto unit down there to your new manual unit. I'll actually have to show you guys that beginning of next video. I'm not going to throw it in until I get the flywheel, which we have to actually get out of the car that the motor and everything is still in. So next video, you guys can expect us to be getting this the rest of the way finished, first thing in the video, and then pulling the motor so we can drop this in its place and replace twin turbo to high compression NA twin turbo. I think we're going to wrap it up here, you guys. This video at this point is already like 3 hours long. It's going to take me quite a while to edit, not to mention I have to edit it today and post it today for you guys. For all of you guys that are new to the channel, thank you guys for the subs recently. Our channel has grown tremendously over our past 2 videos, so we're going to try to keep the ball rolling and keep the content fun and exciting. Also, educational. So if you guys like the video, you know the deal. Don't forget to drop a like and subscribe down below. Stay tuned for more content, and we will catch you guys in the next one. And until then, peace.